Alright, boys and girls, and welcome back to another episode of Mama Helly's Fractured Fairy Tales. This week we're carrying on with the Tales of Redler. In last week's episode, the Knights Redler went out into the world seeking a new concubine for their lord and master, Redler, the self-proclaimed Antichrist. Now, among the knights, it was well known that Redler preferred his wenches bawdy and lustful, but in his concubines she must have propriety. After all, to be the mother of the child of Redler, she must be beyond reproach, pure, loyal, faithful, and built like a Barbie doll. Oh, and young. He likes them young. They went out into the villages and towns of Redlerovia, seeking the maiden of Redler's newest dream. Expecting to be welcomed by the families, imagine their confusion when, instead of balls to meet the eligible young ladies, they were met by sneers and snarls, and there were no young ladies worth considering. All the maidens of appropriate age were homely, or warty, or fat, or slovenly. After the third village and second or third town, with no possibilities having been found, the knights began to wonder what was afoot. Surely, in past journeys through this area, surely then there had been more becoming maidens about. Sir Duncan approached Sir Nightshade with a plan. The Sirs Mich and Hellermoon would travel back to the first town, incognito, that's like undercover, as a pair of travelers on a pilgrimage to the city of King Red for the census. They would seek to find where the women had gone. Meanwhile, Sirs Nightshade and Duncan would travel ahead to the next village, also undercover, to scout out possibilities ahead of the main party. Sirs Beast, Commander, and William would guard the trails and see if they could find out anything. When Mich and Hellermoon arrived back at the first town, they made their way to the hall of the town mayor, a man who ran the town for King Red. Here they were greeted by a comely lass who bade them sit and refresh themselves from their long journey. They told the wench of their pilgrimage to the city of Red and their wish to be counted for Redler's census. "And why would that be?" she asked. "Do you not think Lord Redler takes enough now without giving aught back?" she cried. "Why, just last week we pulled a fast one on that silly Lord Redler, when he sent his Knights Redler on a betrothal search. When his knights reached our town, all our maidens were either hidden or disguised, so that none would be found worthy of Redler. His knights didn't stick around long, let me tell you." With that, she served the two knights their bread and ale, and went about her business. Mich and Hellermoon quickly drank their ale and left this town. While leaving town, they noticed many beautiful maidens about the town, and were convinced of the truth of the girl's words, and set off to return to the rest of the knights. Having learned that the townsfolk wished to keep their daughters away from Lord Red, only increased their desire to find the most comely wench for their leader. In the meantime, Nightshade and Duncan were arriving at their appointed village. There was frenzied activity throughout the village. Girls in all states of undress were everywhere. Nightshade grabbed a raven-haired beauty as she tried to dive into a wagon to get away. She bit and kicked, but Nightshade held on and bade her, "Calm down, my sweet. We want to talk to you. What's going on here?" "The king is seeking a new concubine. We are sending our young lovelies away before the Crusaders arrive." "What's your name, love?" Nightshade asked. "Why, it's Strega, my lord," she said. As she raised her head to look at Nightshade, he was suddenly struck by her eyes. He had never seen such eyes, violet with flashes of fire that sparkled as she smiled at him. "And what are you about, my lord, that brings you to our tiny village?" "My father is the village innkeeper, and would gladly be of service for your travels." Duncan interrupted this exchange with a curt reply. "We are pilgrims to the census, lady. I doubt we will be staying at your inn, but thank you. Come, Nightshade, we must away." "But, Duncan, would it not behoove us to rest here tonight and travel on tomorrow? We must eat and sleep. Why not here rather than the woods?" Being a bit tired himself, and wanting for female companionship, Duncan allowed, as a night at the inn would certainly be preferable to a night in the woods, agreed to stay the night at the inn. After settling into their room, Duncan and Nightshade made their way to the dining hall to marry away the night. The hall was full of men being waited on by serving wenches of indeterminate age. Somewhere between old and dead seemed to be the average. Women with warty, hairy faces, drooping bosoms, and flabby bellies shuffled about, slopping pitchers of ale around, slapping away hands of men too drunk to know how ugly these wenches were. Nightshade and Duncan stared at each other, unbelieving of what they were seeing. When asked, no one seemed to know who Strega was, nor where she might have gone. They questioned the innkeeper, who denied having any but the homeliest of daughters, and even introduced them to two awfully ugly sisters, Stega and Tressa, neither of which bore any resemblance to the Strega of Nightshade's memory. Duncan and Nightshade retired to their room, determined that soon they would figure out what was going on in Redlerovia. They would not return to Lord Redler without a new concubine. Failure was not an option. What is going on? Who is Strega? Tune in next week for the next exciting episode in The Tales of Redler. And until then, remember, it's only a fairy tale.